Wayfarer's insurance company, Harco, effectively says, yes, this is the right policy that could be the one responding. I'm going to tell you where in their response they kind of almost make that admission. And it's something I've been saying. I've been saying that the lively claims are predominantly employment practices claims. And I was like, you might try to get coverage under media. You might also report to some of the other carriers. But truthfully, sexual harassment, retaliation, defamation related to the workplace, you're in EPL territory, which is what the Harco policy was. It was a D&O EPL policy. So I kind of come to this conclusion by a couple of the things that they say throughout this lawsuit. And one was where they mentioned the other lawsuit in California against the other insurance companies. So there's a media policy. There's actually two different media policies. One is for the Man Enough podcast. The other is, I think, more for Wayfarer as a whole. Or It Ends With Us movie as a whole. And there was something weird there where Wayfarer was just added as an additional insured, and I don't think as a full named insured. When you're an additional insured, it's generally only for vicarious liability, whereas a full named insured would have full rights under the policy. So I think the named insured was It Ends With Us movie LLC. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing. Where I think they're basically admitting, like, hey, the lively claims are EPL claims, comes from a couple sentiments here, right? So it says, whether coverage exists under those very different policies, the ones in California court, with very different terms, raises very different contractual issues than those presented in this action. Harco goes on to say that in addition, as the California lawsuit does not include Harco as a defendant and does not address the basis for coverage dispute under the Harco policies. So it's that it doesn't address the basis for coverage dispute under the Harco policies. That's a differentiating factor here. And that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that these two lawsuits are not similar. And I tend to agree. And the way that I can best explain this to you is, I know Not Actually Golden did a video on substantive versus procedural, like, law and what that means, like, in the legal world. That is the best way I can compare what's going on in these two cases. The California matter, which has the general liability policy, it has the two media policies, it might have something else. That is about really the terms of the contract, which is what an insurance policy is, saying this isn't what we cover under these policies. Whereas the Harco dispute is saying, well, you haven't provided us with the requisite notice required under the policy, and furthermore, we believe there are some misrepresentations on applications and potentially even the warranty statement. Depending on when you really see the claim first made, which these are claims made policies. So it's possible that a court might view the claim made predating coverage. And if that is the case, then A, it needed to be promptly reported. But since it kind of looks like they had knowledge of it and they signed a warranty statement at the inception of coverage, it likely would not be covered because of this signature on the warranty statement. A warranty statement warrants that you have no knowledge or potential knowledge of any, like, thing that might give rise to a claim. And so there's, like, this contention around whether there was something, written about to HR that predates July of 2023. Now, I know a lot of the deposition testimony and a lot of the emails that we've seen suggest that Wayfarer did not have an HR complaint in the spring of 2023. So we might be able to get over the warranty hurdle. I know that they are still claiming that the 17-point list from November was actually a written demand for effectively injunctive relief, which would probably trigger the policy, meaning that a claim needed to be promptly reported on that 2023 policy. So the difference here, to go back to the substantive versus procedural, is, in my eyes, these things on the Harco policy like we're more in procedural land, because it's all around really notice and potentially misrepresentations on apps, as opposed to, hey, the wording of here does not cover these types of claims. Like, I can tell you a Harco policy absolutely does cover, like, retaliation in the workplace on an EPL policy. I've looked at the language. I've looked at the language of this policy. I've seen it quite a few times. It would also cover other types of, like, harassment in the workplace. claims. Now, there might be a little nuance to it, and there could be some other exclusions that apply, right? But we are more in substantive land with the HARCO policy if the procedural stuff um, is proper. If the wayfair parties can make these procedural arguments, I do think that the HARCO policy is the place to be for coverage. I feel like I've blabbed on, so I might make more videos. Most of this is really just about, like, they don't want the court to, like, kick the can down the road. They don't want this move to California. They're like, you need to make a decision, otherwise it prejudices us, the insurance carrier, because we need to be involved. Generally speaking, when you are trying to get your insurance to pay out, say everything is done from a procedural aspect, you're on the right policy and everything's fine, the insurance company needs to be involved. They need to be notified promptly, and then they want to be kept abreast of updates, right? Because they're the ones paying. Yes, you still have control, but there are other things in the policies, like hammer clauses and stuff like that, that are important, so they have to be kept apprised of kind of the material things in the case. And so that's why they're like, court, you have to make a decision. You have to declare if we are in the right for denying this or if we're in the wrong. But a lot of this is really about, like, HARCO's like, we weren't forum shopping. New York is the best court for this. You're already seeing the lively stuff. You're familiar with that. And that's the basis of this. And secondarily, we would like to get a move on it because that will not prejudice us, the carrier. I think this was well written and well argued, to be honest with you. I do want to look up a few of these cases that they cited in here. So I'm go into this in more detail, and let me know if you have questions. I feel like sometimes when I talk insurance talk, people are like, Katie, can you calm down? I've had clients do that with me. They're like, I literally need you to, like, take it down a notch. So I need to get better at that.